So welcome to the Wisconsin Photographers Zoom meeting for January 2022. This is day, 40,000 of the pandemic. And we're good to see that we're all still here, at least some of us. And so joining us today is Mr. Dan Powers from the Appleton paper, the Post Crescent?
Yep.
Crescent Post? Which way do I?
Post Crescent.
Post Crescent. And I just happened to run across Dan online, just kind of doing a search for some possible talkers for the show, and ran across his 2001 sort of year in review that was published online. And Dan's got a lot of really impressive stuff. Done some traveling in your time in 25 years at the paper, and pretty unusual to stay. I don't know how anybody got more than 25 years in at one place. Dean, how long were you there?
35 years.
Well, Dan, you're stuck
They
for a
couldn't
while.
catch me. They couldn't catch me.
27 years as a freelancer.
Really? Yep. Pete only got 8 years in. That's his job. That's
45 as a freelancer.
45. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say, yeah.
When did you hire me, Greg? I don't know. That was 90s. Let's not talk about it. Okay. Makes me feel old. So
Been muted.
yeah. So we'll let Dan take over the show here, and can tell us about his travels and some of his work that he's done. And thanks for joining us, Dan. We appreciate you participating.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're already the host. Okay, sorry, I was trying to make you
Am
the
I?
host.
Okay.
But yeah, you're already hosting.
Already took over.
I'll let you do a little introduction to yourself and where you came from and how you ended up in Appleton if you're not from there.
Yeah, I'm originally actually from Milwaukee, a little suburb called Bayside, which is kind of like the lake there. My wife is actually from Neenah, which is kind of how we ended up here. But I've been at the newspaper. This is my 27th year. I can do this briefly. I'm kind of winging it, by the way, because I got a little busy this week and I didn't have a lot of time to prepare, so bear with me here. But I went to UW La Crosse, and fortunate to cross paths with the same professor that Steve had, and Gary McDonald. I was already there, and Gary transferred from Winona State over to La Crosse. So that's kind of how I met Mark Hoffman and some other folks. And I was kind of doing a whole bunch of nothing in high school. You guys know Ron Overdahl?
No,
Ron Overdahl? So I was in high school. We had a career day at Nicolay High School. Ron came in with this big Domke bag and, 52 lenses and all that sort of thing, and kind of piqued my interest. And so I started taking photo classes in high school and did the whole thing. And then I went to La Crosse and was just basically having too much fun. And I was taking photo classes and doing well in those, but no focus at all. Then Gary McDonald came aboard, and you know him, he's a Navy guy and, kick you in the ass kind of guy. And so he said, you need to commit, 1 semester to me, and we're going to build you a portfolio. And he goes, I think you'd be okay as a photojournalist based on what you've been, dabbling in so far. So I did that. I quit my extra job. I worked at a Moen Photo in downtown La Crosse, and I just kept that job. And Gary put me through the paces. And he basically forced me down Mark Hoffman's throat. Mark was working at a newspaper in Connecticut, the Bridgeport Post, and they had an opening for an intern. So I applied for that, totally unprepared, not ready for something like that because I just didn't have any experience for an internship of that level. But Mark gave me a shot via Mac, and I was there I started out 3 months, and they asked me to stay for 6. And at the end of 6 months, they asked me to stay for 9. And I was thinking maybe I was heading towards the actual job, but I wanted to get back to school and finish it. So I did that. And then next summer I interned at the Associated Press in New York City. They had the first summer where they had photo editor internships. So I was in New York for 4 months for that summer, and I came back. And then everybody know John Maniaci? some of you guys. So John went to La Crosse. He and I are buddies, and he was working at the Mesabi Daily News in northern Minnesota and Virginia, Minnesota on the Iron Range. And he was leaving that job, and I was getting ready to graduate, and he connected me there. And they waited for about 2 months for me to graduate, and I went up to the Iron Range and worked my butt off there for about a year. And about 8 months into it, when I was having trouble like paying for food, I decided I needed to do something to, move on. So I really threw like tons of feature photos on the AP wire. And I got a phone call from Jim Moan, and he said, you've been doing a lot of hard work up there, and there's an opening for a part-time position in at the St. Paul Pioneer Press. And maybe between that and doing some freelance stuff for us, you might make a go at it. So I tried that, and I did that for about a year or so. And then there was an opening in Appleton, and I got lucky because there were folks like Mark Hoffman and Kathy Ackerman and Ron Johnson who basically told the photo editor there, that I was someone who was going to be applying and that they should take a look. So I did, and I was grateful. They all sent letters and stuff like that. And Steve is almost the reason I didn't get this job, because I was in the mix in Appleton. This was back in '95, and I think I creeped up in maybe the top 10. Steve would know better than I, something like that. But I don't think Steve will tell you that he felt I was the one through the process. But I guess I kept crawling my way back in. Would that be safe to say, Steve?
Yeah, you were kind of the top 5, but you kept, every time we threw out somebody else, you just kept lingering in the background. It's not quite good enough, but not bad. So,
right. And I think if memory serves me, Dwight Nail Dewey, he was the photo editor. I believe either he told me this or maybe Steve told me this, that the other applicants had been around for, had a lot more experience than me, anywhere from, 5 years to 15 years or something. And I had only been doing this for, 2 years. And so I think they saw potential there. And so they gave me a chance. I had also done the Eddie Adams workshop that year, so that was not a bad thing to have on my resume. And so they gave me a chance, and I have been in Appleton ever since, and I've grown to love this community. And everybody has opportunities at different places and stuff like that, but I really, really just enjoy this community, and I feel a big part of it. I feel like this is my hometown more so than my original hometown at this point in my life. And that's kind of where I'm at as far as the path to get here.
And so during your time, you've covered, why don't you talk a little bit about some of the
sure.
things you've covered while you're there?
So the one of the things I really like about this job is that, or this particular newspaper, is that I love the size of the Fox Valley. It's like 75,000 proper, but all the surrounding communities make it about 300,000, something like that. And I really love community journalism and connecting with people. But I do like the big show, I will not lie. And so we are owned by Gannett. And so I did a couple Super Bowls for the Post Crescent, and Steve had mentioned in his presentation that he was leaving. And so my first opportunity is because actually Steve was leaving, and allowed me to do my first one. And then there's back-to-back Super Bowls. And along the way, there was an editor at USA Today, Michael Madrid, who noticed my Packers stuff. And I just got a phone call out of the blue saying, hey, there's a Super Bowl is in Detroit this year. I think it's the Seahawks against Pittsburgh. And would you like to be part of the team? I was like, sure, that'd be great. And so I did that. And we had a group of about 15 people or so. And they let me just roam the sidelines. And by let me, that means that, the really good photographers are specific spots that are, prime spots, and they're giving me a chance, but I have to kind of wing it. And so you kind of had to, if you've ever been to a game like that or seen the sidelines, you know how packed it is, and it's very hard. You could be bouncing in trying to find a place to wedge in there, and you could miss a lot. But I happened to have a good game that day, and Hines Ward, I don't know if you guys remember this game, it was like a flea flicker type of play. It was a big play of the game, and he like hurtled into the end zone with a big smile on his face. And I was moving and I had a feeling that something was going to happen down this way. So I went to that corner of the end zone, and some guy, for whatever reason, got up at the last second, and I plopped in his spot, and Heinz just hurtled right into my lap. And so I had the front of the sports section that day, and then also I had Heinz Ward kissing the trophy with all the confetti going down, and that was on the front page of USA Today. So my first time with them, I got really lucky in that the 2 prime spots for pictures I got all from one player, basically. And that led them to a little bit later, I got a phone call and just said, hey, and there's Michael again. He said, how'd you like to go to Beijing and cover the Olympics with us? I'm like, I could do that. Yeah, sure. And so that was 2008. And I covered my first Olympics there. And that was overwhelming and exciting. And, you have all your top sports photographers in the whole world, and a lot of them anyways. And, me, little guy here in Appleton, and you're advanced with Al Bello and folks like that, and Heinz Klutmeyer, and different things like that, and it was intimidating. And my first assignment was fencing, and I'll show you the picture a little later. And I got really lucky and got a real nice, at least in my mind, image out of that. And it gives you a sense of, you could just kind of exhale. It's the first day. I actually got a usable photo. And they seemed to be happy, and it gave me an opportunity to relax. And then it was exciting, and I wasn't so self-conscious, the rest of it. And after that, I did a couple Super Bowls for them down in Miami. I did one. I did a total of 5 Super Bowls, 3 for USA Today. The last one I did was the overtime one with the Patriots against Atlanta in 2000. I want to say 18. 16, something like that. I was asked to go to the Olympics in Sochi, but I had to get rotator cuff surgery right before I took a fall, so I couldn't do that. But they brought me to Rio for the Summer Olympics. And then following that, they brought me to South Korea for the last Winter Olympics. And so that's the gist of my, I guess, travel as far as that. And then like Steve, really to this day, I've been covering the Packers. In that run where Steve was talking about, where we did the road games and all that stuff, I did all that. And then we took a little different, I was doing half the road games, and then I was just doing the home games, and I went back to doing the road games again. And now it's basically home games and Chicago, Minnesota, and then playoffs, and if they would have made it to the Super Bowl. So still plugging along with that.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's
It's a nice balance.
let's take a look at some of the work that you've done.
Okay, so let's see how. Let's hit share again. So what I thought I would do, because you mentioned the pictures I picked for 2021.
Mhm.
I have a folder here just of those photos. I can kind of scroll through those a little bit.
Oh, so you just, yeah, there you got it. Never mind.
You guys see that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's see here. Okay, so this is just a place. I actually have a photo from this a couple years ago that's better, but there's a little bit better separation in the wrestlers. But this is everyone's nightmare, I think, for wrestling. It's cool for a couple of pictures, but this particular high school, and they're one of the best, it's Freedom High School in wrestling around here. They've chosen to go with that single. That's not just for dramatic effect for when the team comes in. That's the lighting for the whole event. There's one light. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, so we want a photo gallery, roughly about 15, 20 pictures, and you're gonna have to get creative, and it's you get some moody pictures, but they're not super usable for actual stories on particular wrestlers, that sort of thing.
How high ISO are you on that, Dan, on when you're doing the action?
Boy, I'm talking about 6,400 ISO easily,
Right.
something like that. Not ideal, but I mean, I've had worse, I guess.
Right.
And this is same place. This is the one right before Christmas, so they do this routine where Grinch fights Santa, and then Santa eventually wins. But I like Grinch laying the hammer down on Santa on this one, so that's the one I
Yeah, that's great.
went with.
Hey, Dan, are those wrestlers? Or are those just staff?
Those are actual coaches of the wrestling.
Is it sanctioned by World Wrestling?
Right. It's pretty funny. They do the same exact thing every year. And then sometimes, you know, it lines up where you get a little separation and sometimes it doesn't. And this time it was decent. It was fun. The picture I put on Instagram, I believe, and it just got a lot of attention. So I thought I'd throw that in there. I figured people in Freedom, if they saw this gallery, would get a kick out of it. And with just typical stuff, we were doing a story about lack of housing and homelessness and that sort of thing. So it's down in Oshkosh. And, you know, just like anything, this will kind of, this series of photos kind of reflects typical what a lot of you guys do, you know, just day-to-day type stuff, high school things. I try to, as much as possible, I've really put a lot of effort into watching what's going on around the game, not just action. I have a tendency to show up at games a lot and work my way into, which has been frustrating the last couple of years, but working my way into locker rooms. I like the behind the scenes type things whenever I can. Packer stuff. This one is interesting because this was a really big interception of this particular game. And this is the first time in a while where you guys could appreciate this. This is the first frame that I hit on this, you know, maybe 5 frames in this series. And not too often I get one where frame number 1, everything came together. I mean, I don't think I'd want that ball placed any different than that. I was pretty happy with that. Kind of a one-handed catch. If I'm going too slow or too fast, let me know.
Doing great, Dan.
I couldn't resist. I'm not, you know,
Yeah, I like this one.
fan photos, but this one was a little different. I kind of like this guy.
I've seen a double chin before, but never a double neck.
Yeah. He needs a bigger helmet. And, you know, just the usual. This is a little bit different. But, you know, I did a lot of Packer games with Steve, a lot. And, you know, we were joking about, you know, if I didn't know where Steve was, or, you know, I knew maybe I was probably missing something. And I do miss those days because back then, you know, and I don't know if this is the same for Steve. I think it is probably, but Steve and I were solo. We did the games, you know, as an individual, and we would go to these games with the guys from the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, all friends of ours, you know, all very, we, you know, have dinner together. That was one of my favorite parts of being on the road, is hanging out with the guys. But very competitive still in a good, healthy way. And, you know, my goal back then when I was younger was if there was 10 pictures at a game that the Journal Sentinel got, if I could get 8 of them, you know, and it was kind of unrealistic, but that was my goal, to always get 8 of the 10. Then I figured if I'm going against 3 people, if I can hold myself to that, I'd be happy. And to the point where Morigash at home games would yell at me for running. He just, you know, I'd become down the sideline running, and Maury would be like, stop running. So it was fun competitiveness. And I think Steve went through the same thing. It's a lot of pressure, and a good pressure, I think, to come up with the goods against the guys who are, you know, maybe doing it as a team a little bit. And one of my favorite things to cover, I sign up for it every year, is state soccer tournament, boys and girls down in Milwaukee. I grew up playing for the Milwaukee Bavarians, so I grew up playing soccer. And this kid who's facing the camera got the game winner in overtime. And so a whole team rushed to the crowd, and these 2 guys embraced for just a second. And I just liked the moment. Trick or treating. Again, we're doing a series on housing and lack of housing. And, you know, this is a guy who makes, $50,000 a year, something like that. And he's having to live in a trailer with a roommate, and he's got a daughter, and he's just struggling to get by because of the cost of housing.
Hey, Dan, on that last one, so do you look around for good places where you can use natural light? Is that like a basement window light coming in? Do you do that more than artificial light?
Yes, I try to do natural light. This was one of those situations where, we were trying to, uh, I wanted to kind of, I prefer hanging out with someone and just naturally, just photograph them what they do and how their life is. And there's sometimes where that just doesn't happen, you guys know, and so you end up doing some sort of portrait. So I think I shot this with a 24-1.4 and narrow depth of field. And there's a window to the side, and I'm actually standing on like a couch because there's a window behind me. So I'm trying to shoot, but let some of that light kind of go over my shoulder. It's pretty straightforward, but I think the background I kept it a little soft because I want the focus on his face, but I think it still shows that the room is a little disheveled. It's out of focus, but you can kind of tell that it is what it is. I like little league prep sports and all that just as much as shooting pros. I think a lot of times there's more emotion into it. I mean, this is a city championship that they just won, and I think that was the picture. And we do a lot of graduations and stuff like that. And this is the most odd high school graduation photo I think I've ever taken. I was just roaming the halls because the kids were, in the different rooms waiting to be brought in. And I come in this one, and this is like the health science room or something like that. And there's these half torsos just laying around on the ground. So that was kind of funny. And they're pretty oblivious to it because they go to school there. There's an annual event in Appleton or Donald Driver. It's a fundraiser softball game. It's actually not that bad to shoot. It's kind of is what it is. But this guy's a character, so it's if you focus your lens on him, you're usually gonna have a fun picture here and there. 4th of July. Wait for the fireworks. What I like about this assignment is that this is Memorial Park, and I walk from my house because I'm a block away, so it's an easy one. And one of the things that is a little bit different now is that unfortunately, sadly, there's no staff photographer in Oshkosh anymore. You guys all know Joe Sienkiewicz, or a lot of you
Yeah,
do.
what happened with Joe?
So Joe is working, I believe, in a mill actually, and doing really well. And I believe his daughter went to college, and he's making good money and seems to be happy. I've only talked to him once, I think, and that was just through IM, I believe, since he was gone. But so this actually is an Oshkosh. Excuse me. This is a family that was helped by a fire department after a fire, and they were there to thank him. And we have a marathon every year. I always try to show up early to get something different than just the runners. These are people just getting ready for the run. And it's a whole afternoon kind of thing, but I usually show up really early before the sun comes up just to see if there's anything different. Same thing. Story I got about a guy who sells popcorn. This is a fisheye pushed up against the glass. I was just thankful that the glass was clean. I was just hanging out with him while he was working.
What's the deal with the sombrero? Where did that start?
Can't remember. I should know this, but this sombrero, it's that particular guy. It's like the same guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, when he scores a touchdown, I think he looks for that guy before the game so that if he scores anywhere in that general area, he runs over that guy. I was just messing around. Baseball's boring, so you start experimenting.
Baseball's boring. Not that boring.
Yeah, that's a little better, but I still like the feature hunt. I enjoy that when I get the opportunity. So this is the same game. Usually I go after the celebration right away because it goes quicker, and the pain usually lasts longer, so you can always find that a little bit later. And we do we always do the athlete of the year for each like winter, spring, and fall sports. These are, we did a series of portraits of these folks that would do volunteering. And this is an old, actually, Steve, this is Mark Courtney, his family's mill. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. They do cotton and stuff like that in this mill. And Mark Courtney was a photographer at the Post Crescent, who's actually, that's the job, whose position that I took when he left. And his brother is really good about letting us go over there and use this old mill that hasn't changed since the 1880s at all. Same equipment, everything, for occasional portraits. Again, I like any level of sports, really. This is sturgeon. I don't know if you guys have ever photographed sturgeon fishing out on Lake Winnebago.
Sure.
Mhm.
It's always interesting, you know, some of these guys wait like 20 years to even see a fish, let alone catch one. But the tricky part is it's so cold. You know, your camera stuff when you're outside gets so cold. Once you step in one of these, it's like 80 degrees in there, and you have to put some time in before your gear clears. So what I typically do is I keep one camera in the vehicle. And so I had a gentleman that was willing to kind of drive me around. He had a four-wheel drive vehicle. And I kept one camera with a 16 millimeter on it in there while I was outside shooting. And then when we came across a shanty that I wanted to go into, or that he knew somebody, then my camera is nice and warm, so I didn't have to, because this is obviously during COVID, and the last place I want to be is in a 6 foot by 6 foot shanty that's 80 degrees with two people that are not masked. So you know, I knew getting in there, and I just got lucky. They had this red light on, and I mean, I shot quick enough just to get about 4 frames and get their names and get out.
And you're wearing a mask, correct?
Yes,
Are you wearing a mask? Yeah.
not right now, but yes.
And right, but and do they give you a look?
No, actually, surprisingly not. A lot of the folks there were just not ones to wear masks. You know, that's their choice. And, but no one gave me a hard time. This picture was towards the end of the season last season. I really like this one. This one actually ended up getting an honorable mention, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, which I was happy about. I've had a few in there, but it had been a few years. I just like how everyone in that line is watching him as he's out of there. And I just like the symmetry of it and that sort of thing. Actually, the picture that I told you guys about, Hines Ward, that's actually in the 50th anniversary book of the Pro Football Hall of Fame book. This guy actually, they call me, they were going to put like a, I don't know, like a 2-column. They ended up doing like a double truck with it, which was kind of a nice surprise. And this is actually them. We moved out of our newspaper, and these are the guys putting windows into they're just gutting the Post Crescents. And I was just walking by. I've been watching the construction going on. I've been waiting for a window thing. And I literally like almost tackled the construction foreman and just said, "Hey, can you get me up to this floor? Because I think they're about to put this window in, and we really don't have anything from the interior." And so he's accommodating, and not the best picture in the world, but it was nice for the day.
Dan, where do you guys move to?
We're in the 222 building, which is like right on the next corner diagonally, less than a block away.
Okay.
This is the first day that they let fans back for baseball. With the Wisconsin Timberwhalers are a farm team for the Milwaukee Brewers. And so they were, actually, I was just walking in and I just happened to look up, and these are the mascots greeting fans as they're coming in. And this was Potter State basketball, because it got split into different locations because of COVID. I'm not actually covering Tosa East. I'm covering the team that lost to them. But I was at this angle, and these kids just exploded. And Mark Hoffman is actually there shooting this team. And I'm not going to pass up what I think could be a cool photo. So I shot that first, and then I worked my way around them to get to my team. So I was happy that this kind of fell into my lap.
Journal Sentinel use it?
What's that?
Did Journal Sentinel use it? Since you're poking it, you know?
Yeah, probably not. I don't think Mark would let that happen. And then this is kind of what this picture, it's a nice little cute slice of life, but for me, this one just was a day that I was just, you get tired of everybody does the masks and separation from people and, human contact with your community. And so I just came across a bunch of moms. One mom used to come to this park when she was a kid, so she brought her kids and all of her friends' kids to kind of show them what she experienced as a little girl. And this is her daughter. And she just was enamored of the fact that I was there. And I'm literally laying on my back on the ground. I was just kind of working my way into the scene until something happened. And she would like flip, so I wouldn't see her. And then she'd flip, kind of like hide and seek, you might say. And I'm like, I'm just gonna lay my back here until something happens. And I'm not usually one for, direct eye contact with the camera awareness, but I think in this picture it worked out. And it's kind of cute. First day of school, checking out each other's sandals. And again, that's one of those things where you got to work your way in there, kind of going like this to get on my belly down at their level. Touchdown. I think there's just one more left. Right. The reason we all shot this picture many times, but that lady right in the middle just kind of grabbed me. I just like her big smile. And she's the only one who's not wearing the green in that area, so she kind of sticks out just a little bit. So I kind of like that one. So go here.
And I've got that article about you from a couple of years ago when you did your 25th anniversary at the newspaper.
Uh-huh.
Do you want to look at a couple of those photos? I can share those unless you have access to that real quick. I can pop it up. Otherwise, if you can get to it, I don't know if there's some photos from there because that's more of a kind of a.
If you can pop it up that's viewable, it might be easier because I didn't have
Sure.
time to get a lot of those together. Sure.
I can do that. Stand by.
That's not much of a shot.
Yeah.
So Dan, why he's trying to find that, one question I would have is, how do you keep fresh from doing the same thing 35 times or 25 times? I mean, it's just, after shooting the same event more than a few times, you get kind of sick of it. So what is your secret to keep the events fresh?
I guess I just try to look at just like all you guys, I just try to look at it a little bit differently each time. And there's just some that I guess you're just reserved to the fact that you're there again and you're going to do your best to try to find something different. It might not happen, but for better or for worse, I've never really taken my job too seriously. I mean, I don't consider a job, just like you guys. I mean, I just love doing it. And I think what makes it different is that the people are different every year. The event might be the same, but the people there are going to be different each year. And so as long as I can have an exchange and something like that, I like meeting people and maybe that's what keeps it fresh for me is that it's, if it's the same guy every year, then that'd be a little bit different. But I've never gotten burned out on things, not very, very often. And if I ever do get to that point, I might just take a break that year, and just say, Bill or whoever. Well, in this case, it's just Bill Glasheen and I. When back then it was like 6 of us. But I think just because the people are different, I've never really got too burnt out on that. I know what you're talking about, the visual part of it, but I guess if I can have a good interaction with people, that's enough for me. So did that thing show up okay for you or?
Yep. Let's see. Can you see it okay now?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get past that picture. So I was asked by the paper, it was flattering, to share with our readers. This, I believe, ran Christmas Day, or maybe the last day of the year, to talk about what it's been like to be here for 25 years. And the funny thing is that I got a lot of phone calls and emails and stuff. People thought I was saying goodbye, like that was like I was retiring, which was kind of funny. But the cool part of this job is that I was able to travel a lot and do a lot of sports photography. I really like sports photography. but quite frankly, that's not what I enjoy the most about it. I enjoy just working on stories with people. And so what I did was I just kind of talked about the people that touched me the most over the years. And one of the big ones was actually, I was working on this story when Steve and I were on the road. This young man who broke his neck during a hockey practice. Yeah, there he is, Brian. They were just doing a Russian circles drill, and he lost the edge of his skate, and he slid into the goal and broke his neck. And technically, he died right on the ice there. They had to resuscitate him a couple of times. That's his mom. And so it was a big thing in our community, and TV and everybody. And the family was a little overwhelmed. His dad is a doctor, which doesn't help because he knows what this seriousness of it is. So there was a press conference so they could just get that out of the way. And at the end of the press conference, I stuck around and asked if I could talk to the dad, and said I'd really like, to maybe document Brian's journey. And they weren't quite ready for that right away, but he was very, very nice about it. And I kind of, I showed empathy and sincereness, and they passed. But then about a week later, when they knew he was going to actually survive, I got a call saying they'd be willing to talk to me again. And so I sat with the family, and, they thought he was going to be quadriplegic. I sat with them, and he was, he couldn't move anything. And they kind of left it up to him. He was only 16 years old. And I said, I just be hanging out. And if at any point you don't want me to do this anymore, I'll stop, and we won't run this story at all. And so I spent the next year with them, and I photographed every slice of life to the point where suddenly he was starting to feel things a little bit. And you can see in this lower right picture here that they sent him off to a specialty hospital in Colorado. The name fails me, and they flew him in a private, a special jet and everything like that. And I went out there for about a week and documented him in his recovery there. And then, everything of his life. I went to his school, I went to his church, everything. But this particular story is really unique because he got feeling back, and I documented him from when he was thought to be dead, basically, to getting back on the ice again. Which is, a miracle. He had a severed spinal cord, but it didn't quite go all the way. And that little part that didn't saved him. So it was cool. 10 years later, I got invited to his wedding, and, and that sort of thing. And I think, they consider me a good friend in that. And then this family, we did a whole thing on the future of dairy in Wisconsin. And I spent 3 months working everything from urban sprawl to mega farms. But my focus was the Voigt family, 3 generations. You can see in the lower left here, that's one son, grandpa and dad in Shiocton, Wisconsin. And I went there at least 2 to 5 times a week for a period of 3 months, and documented everything it's like to grow on work a family farm. The best food I ate, because they would not let me, if I was there and it was breakfast time, I was sitting on the meeting, they would not let me not do that. And this picture was one that I like this one probably because the effort I put into it, because he was going to do this field of hay, and it looked like the light was coming together. And when I went out, I just followed him out there, and I realized it was going to be about an hour and a half or so before that sun, dipped below the clouds where I wanted it to be. So I sat on a hillside for quite a long time, waited for that to happen, but it had a nice feel to it.
Beautiful.
Hey, Dan, I got a quick question on your long-term projects. I think we've all watched journalists like yourself do these and kind of have an idea of what you hope to accomplish. But your subjects, like the family and the farm family, how long did it take, or what did you have to do to get them to understand your concept? Because, for them, all of a sudden a photojournalist shows up, they want to spend 2 to 3 times a week with them.
Yeah.
Very, very few people have experienced that. So how did you explain it to them, and when did you realize that they started to understand what it was that you were trying to accomplish?
Well, the farming family, because they were experiencing struggle, you know, with the industry, um, I think right away I kind of eased into it the first day, and I told him what I need to do is I need to be there at times that you wouldn't expect. Like if there's a day that you guys pay bills, seems kind of odd, but you know, if I could, you know, just be hanging out at your kitchen table while you're paying your bills or milking the cows or whatever it might be. I said, I almost need to embed myself so people get a sense of what your life is really like. And I need to kind of experience it firsthand. And I certainly expect there'll be times you'd rather me not be there because, you know, or you've had enough of me, you know, and I said, I will take whatever you give me. And so I always start out real slow. And I don't know that there's this, oh, I get what you want to do necessarily right away. But I think because I kind of eased in, like the first time I probably went, you know, once or twice, and I didn't spend the whole day there, you know, and overwhelm them. I just a couple hours, you know, kind of dip and dunk, you might say. And then by the second week, I'm there a little bit longer. And then after that, I think what happens is people just kind of forget that you're there, not forget that you're there, but you're just part of what's going on. And I've never had a problem with that as long as I went real slow at the beginning. So I just ease into the things. And I listen a lot of times at the beginning more than I'm actually taking pictures, you know, and really hear them. And I think if that's a big deal, if people see that you really care about them, suddenly it's not a big deal, even if they're camera shy a lot of times. I don't know if that answers your question. And this is John Reese. And again, I said right here, I don't remember how we got introduced, but I know we were just going to do a quick little story. But he is a firefighter, and he had unfortunately jumped into a shallow part of a pond off of a pier and broke his neck. And his friends didn't even know he was gone. They're lost, and they're like, "Where's John?" And he was under the water, and he said he remembered he couldn't move his body, and he's looking up through the water, and he could see people looking around up on this pier. He said it was just a horrible, horrible feeling. And then they noticed him. And so he is high functioning, I don't know the word for it. He's not quadriplegic, but he can use his wrists a little bit. And we were talking, and he's really got a strong faith in God. And so this is back when we did audio slideshows, you know, sound slides, that sort of thing. And so I asked him if it'd be okay if I just kind of hung out with him, see what his life was like. And again, I just listened to him a lot, and he let me in. I mean, that's his daughter, you know, him helping her get to sleep. And I think the next picture is about as exposed as you can be to someone. You know, he's getting bathed. He can't bathe himself. I had someone write into the paper very upset about this photo, that they thought I took advantage of them and everything like that. And I explained to them that he invited me into every aspect of his life. You know, if you have a problem with the boulder, you could talk to him, but he's not upset about it at all. He welcomed me into that scene. And so I really, I went all in for this story for about 3 months. And then what I did was I actually had him narrate it. So it was in his words. And that actually helped me with some of the photos, because he talked about some things that I hadn't photographed yet. And I had some time to do that and kind of circle around and hit a couple of things that he touched on that were important to him. And this is Walt and Aline Renner. I met them in 2011. Actually, we were having a meeting at the newspaper about dementia and Alzheimer's, and Walt was there he was there just to talk not about himself necessarily, but about the subject. And someone introduced the idea of maybe, you know, we could document them. And so I met with him, and they were pretty good about it. You know, when back then in these initial pictures, you see, you know, she recognized me and knew who I was. And as time went on, you know, she'd get more forgetful, but I hung with them. I did 3 videos over 6 years, 5 years, something like that. And so I did video and stills. You know, they introduced me as part of their family. But I got access to their doctor's appointments where we can see her, you know, her scan. And they're explaining to her where the dementia, those gaps in her brain, that's where the disease is and that sort of thing. And this is another situation that this was a hard day. This is when she had to be put into assisted living finally, because it was too much. It was just as much about the caregiver as the person who has this unforgiving disease. And so the picture of him holding the box is when he's saying goodbye to her for the first time, leaving her there. But I was there for wedding anniversaries and, just about everything. And this is Avi. Avi's really cool. So Avi is, I've been documenting, I did 3 videos on her. She has dwarfism, but she is the only one in the whole world that was diagnosed. She doesn't fit into any categories. There's literally nobody who has what she has. And so we went to do an interview with them, and they were going to do a daily story about them. And I went during the interview, and I got out of that interview. I'm like, there's no way we're doing a daily piece on this. We have to, spend some time on this. And so it turns out their doctor was the father of the young man that I talked about who broke his neck ice skating. That was his dad. And when I heard that name, I said, "Oh, Dr. Myers is one of your doctors?" "Oh yeah." I said, "Tell you what, this is what I'd like to do. I did this with Dr. Myers and his son 20 years ago. Can you do me a favor and just chat with him about that?" And she said, "Okay." And then she called me back 2 days later. She said, "We're in." So evidently it was a good experience for the Myers family, and that they trusted me based on what he said. And so they struggle with, she's had hundreds of operations and different things. She can't walk. She can't talk too well. She's older now. Since then, the sad thing is that she technically doesn't fall in the category of dwarfism. She's got spinal issues. So now all these support groups that they go to, they can't go to anymore, and they're kind of on their own. And this just discovered during the pandemic. So I haven't been able to revisit them yet, but I plan on it. If we have time, I have a short little video, maybe I can show you guys. And we became buddies. Her mom took this picture with the cell phone of me and her when I didn't know about it, but. And these are just, kind of talking about what we did with those top pictures of the year, just a variety of things we cover a year. This is actually
So
the
this
one
spans your all 27 years now. No,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah, this is just little things that I picked. This picture I picked because it's not too often you go to a really, really big fire and you actually find, well, I found a picture that I feel is a beautiful photograph. This is early morning, the sun was coming up, and I'm standing there, and all of a sudden the wind picked up and it just pushed the smoke through the tree, and I thankfully I knew enough to kind of stop down to, F11 or F16 and kind of get that star effect out of the hot spot of the sun. And again, I was just talking about daily stuff, sports and portraits and things like that.
Do people ask you what your favorite picture is?
Yeah, actually, I touched. Oh, here's that picture, that wrestling picture. That's the one I like better. There's a better separation. You can see the wrestlers better. Yeah, and I think I said in the end of this column that I wrote that, there's no way I can do that.
Right.
I don't think any of us can.
Right.
And I will say one thing that I did enjoy about the Brian Myers, the young man the hockey player. And I've never done this since, but I ended up writing the whole thing because it became such an intimate situation that we just felt like a writer separately really couldn't. Well, this picture I really was it. Oh yeah, I'll show you these two. But going back to Brian, I'm sorry. So I ended up writing 3 stories, and we ran a 12-page special section on him on Christmas Day. So when Steve and I were on the road, I think in Tampa that time when I didn't go to dinner with anybody, I didn't do anything. I went down by the pool and I literally wrote 3 stories. I spent all day long working on that. This picture Steve, I'm pretty sure Steve was here. We were in Detroit on Thanksgiving, and this is toward like the last minute or so of this game, and it's just frustration on the Packers because they were going to lose the game, and Mark Tauscher literally ripped the head off this guy, and his shoulder pads popped over his head, so it almost looks like he got decapitated. And I didn't get the boss award like Steve did, but I did get a second place in the Pro Football Hall of Fame contest for this picture. It's just I'm just can teach you to make sure you shoot all the way to the end of the game, and that's the Heinz Ward Super Bowl picture I was talking about. And some Olympics. My first Olympics, I got to shoot Michael Phelps for the whole all the medals that he got, which was kind of cool. And that picture right there, of the young lady kissing the pastille there, that's the picture I told you, my very first Olympics, my first assignment. I didn't know anything about fencing, and she had won the gold, and we were waiting for her to come up to the podium to get her award. And I was next to a New York Times photographer, and we were sitting there, and we were right in the front row. And it was my first medal ceremony, so I made sure I was like dead center and right up there. And I just noticed something out of the corner of my eye, and I see her. I'm like, I think that's the girl who got the gold. And so I said, "Can you just hold my spot?" And I grabbed whatever lens I could think of to grab, and I went behind all the photographers. And all of a sudden, she walked back out to where she won, and she just dropped her knees and did a little kiss, and boom, I got an image. And I was just praying that it was somewhat in focus, and that was my first decent picture of the Olympics, and that's the reason I was able to kind of take a deep breath and relax a little.
Yeah, at the time, Dan, did you know what a piste was?
I did not going into it.
I never heard of that.
Oh, when I first got there, I was very confusing on where you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to do, and I had to study quick. Oh, and I think they just wanted me to throw a couple pictures of it here of me on the job kind of thing. So
Who took that picture?
What's that?
Who took the picture of you?
Mike
Chasing it.
Romer.
Oh, there it is. I see it. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. And then this was funny. We were on the Great Wall of China on a rare, half day off or something like this. And this guy's, I think he was from Thailand, and he won the silver, I think. And he was so excited that he wanted anybody who walked by him, he wanted to have his picture taken with them. You could bite the medal, you could put it on the medal. He was just from person to person right down that, he was fired up. So I took advantage of it. I think that's basically it.
Looks great, Dan. Great
Very nice.
Really,
Thank you.
really nice. Wonderful attitude.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I still love doing it. I guess people ask what it's like now. We have smaller staff. I don't know, Steve, when I started the Post Crescent, I think if you included a summer intern, there had to be like 7 people there, maybe
That's 6 or 7. Yeah.
7. And now there's 2, and we also cover Oshkosh because there's nobody in Oshkosh, which is unfortunate, but that's the way things are going these days. And I think like anybody, I had my moments of frustration, of course, and this and that, but I like to feel that I have a pretty good attitude, and I still have a lot of fun doing it. I just have different ways of doing it. And one of the things, if you guys don't mind, I could kind of show you. They're not really great photos, but Bill Glasheen and I, my colleague, we were trying to find a way, with not connecting with the community because of the pandemic, and what can we do different? And we had heard, that the schools, the proms, none of these kids could go to their proms, because they're all getting canceled. And it made me think of John Maniaci. Andy, what we do kind of sometimes. We help John with that, the kids who can't afford, the graduation pictures. And so he gets a group of photographers, donate their time, and we take pictures and give them to the kids. And I don't know I can't remember if it was Bill's idea or mine, or we collaborate or whatever. We're like, what about these proms? I wonder if we did something where we said, hey, if you couldn't make your prom, but you'd like your prom picture, we'll do that for you. And then we give it to them. So the paper liked that idea, and so we promoted that, and then they had to sign up, their parents signed up for them. But the agreement is social distancing. It has to be at their place outside, and we're going to make the best of it. Sometimes we'll bring some flashes, sometimes natural light, and it's going to be a fairly quick thing, so they all got dolled up, and we had a whole bunch of kids that really embraced it, and it was pretty good hit. I could show you a couple pictures if you guys are curious.
Mhm. Yeah,
To do it all one day or over time or just?
Oh no, we had a little bit more response than we thought. So I can't remember how many we did, but we did at least, I want to say 100 or so.
Nice. That's great.
Yeah, it was cool. So let me just do my. Oh, I lost my photo mechanic. Hang on here.
After you're done with that, Dan, I have a question about the pictures you showed from last year.
Okay. I got to get out of this, guys. So for some reason, my photo mechanic isn't showing up here. I'll find it here.
So when you go to share screen, it doesn't show up, and it is one of the things to look at.
No, I think I'm okay. It just wasn't.
Okay.
It just wasn't on. So let me try it. What do you
There you
guys?
go.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Yep.
So the other thing that we did was we, they missed out on everything. So it's your picture, I mean, if you had a young person who's just like, I don't know what to do, then of course, I don't know how Bill did his thing, but for me, I would just like, hey, it's your picture, we'll have some fun. If it was a little corny, but they liked it and that's their idea, let's just do it. And if they weren't sure what to do, then I would, guide them a little bit. So we had everything from this sort of thing to, some of them, they got all dolled up and everything like that. And I just noticed like this tree had the similar color in her front yard as the dress she had on. So we went over there and, I brought a little couple Canon flashes and, he was a little bit more bold. So we went with the bold yellow in the background, and then that's his girlfriend. And then I did them together. Bill and I did these separately. So I just put one light on her, one light on him. And then this was one that actually was kind of cool because her mom called and said, just so you know, her boyfriend's going to come over and kind of surprise her, and I said, okay. And I said, well, let's just start shooting the portrait like normal. And then, tell him to come over when everyone wants to come over, and I'll just wing it. So I wasn't shooting anything with a wide angle lens too much, but I made sure I had one for this because I knew at some point he was going to come over. So it was kind of fun. She was surprised. And it's a good memory for them. And that's one of the pictures I did of her.
Nice. That's great.
Some of them are kind of simple because it depends on the person's house, what you're working with. Some had like she had a really big home, a lot of landscaping and that. So, they're a little bit easier.
Dan, were these published in the paper at all?
We did a photo gallery.
Nice.
online.
Yes. And then
Yeah.
we gave I believe we emailed the JPEGs to the kids for them to do whatever they want with them. And they had a green light. And if they had any problems at Walgreens or wherever they get their prints done, that Bill or I would sign off on it to say that's okay. Now this is actually a yard behind, but we were in her yard and I was setting up and there was those trees there and I saw something. I'm like, what the heck's that? And I looked behind the tree and their neighbor has all this going on. And so I went over to the neighbor's house while she was finishing putting her makeup on or whatever and said, anyway, we could use your backyard as a backdrop. And they knew her since she was a little girl. So they're like, go ahead, do whatever you want. So that we got lucky in that one.
Oh,
A little silliness, But everything was just a little bit different. Some kids wanted their dog.
Yeah.
And then this one, we had a little fun with making sure they're exactly 6 feet apart.
Yeah, right. Nice.
Yeah. And then this one I had the before and after. We did one like that with no mask, and then one with mask. I actually like, out of all of them, I actually like this one with mask. That way we kind of, I want to make sure we had that one in the gallery to, you know, that kind of drives a point home. Again, pets. And then she actually had a little stream going in her backyard. So that kind of worked out. So that was just kind of a fun little, you know, keep things different, keep things fresh, and
Yeah,
actually
man.
still connect with the community.
Right. Yeah, that's great.
Did someone have a question? Like,
I did, Dan. In your first presentation, the second to last picture was a Packer picture.
okay, do you
was-
remember?
End of the field, end of the game kind of thing. I think the Packers lost again.
Mhm.
Was that from just this past weekend, or was that from last year?
Oh shoot, I'm sorry guys, I forgot what picture that was.
I thought you said it was Tauscher taking his head off.
Oh, that one?
No. It was really wide, and there was like a bunch of Packers players kneeling down in the foreground, and it was really
Oh.
foggy.
No, that was earlier. That was actually at the beginning of the game. It was one of those. There was a lot of moisture in the air, and then they
Oh,
blew
right.
off fireworks, and so that was the smoke hanging in that thick air.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Hey,
Okay,
hey, Dan,
I
why
would
don't you
think-
tell us what happened there, the snow pit, the snow problem you had.
Oh, thanks, Steve.
You didn't have any problems, Dan, did you?
Oh my God, Matt. Hey, Matt. By the way, you had a very nice picture.
Yeah, you did.
The block
You
punt.
nailed it.
I got
Yes, you
lucky.
did. So let's see here. I could probably show you my depression kick in here. Hang on.
This is every photographer's nightmare. It's happened to everybody too, so.
You know, it'd be one thing if like I just missed it and there was nothing, you know, what I mean, like I just didn't get to play. That I could live with that. I wouldn't be happy about it. But you know, when you're ready, you're prepared, and it comes to you, and you get it, and it's a big moment in the game, and your equipment fails you. Ugh. So
So frustrating.
I'm gonna see if I can find this here really quick. Okay, here it is. Okay, see if I can share the screen again and,
Yep, I think you're still the host.
oh, okay. Okay, share screen. Okay. Can you see that?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay, so that picture is actually in focus. That's the ball on the foot. And then bam, he hits it with his hand. That's the big play to turn, and the
Snow.
snow is in focus.
Yeah. That was a problem that night.
Oh, it just killed me. I got to get that off the screen.
I had that
Um,
happen, Dan. I had that happen a bunch of times.
Oh, yeah, that was, you know, it is what it is. I guess I'm happy I got something from that play, but that was very frustrating. I can show you, my buddy Mark suggested I share my all-time favorite Packer photo with you guys if you're curious.
Yeah.
Let me see here. I'll put that in.
Dan, were you in the end zone?
I was on the end zone on the Pack side.
So I was just upfield a little bit. from
You were
the
up,
tree.
must have been on the 10-yard line.
Pack
or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Had less snow there.
yeah.
Not much.
All right, so
I was
before
gonna
I
say,
show you
Dan,
this,
that wouldn't have happened if you had a Sony.
well, yeah, a little too late.
Yeah,
now.
right.
So years ago, I was in Buffalo for a game. I gotta assume Steve was there too. And Brett Favre, you know, he's the Iron Man. He never comes out or anything, but he came out during the game and he was kind of sucking wind, and he went over the bench and they put some water in his head, and there's another guy or two there, but he sat usually, you know, Steve, he would go to the middle of the bench and then people would be around him. So you couldn't see if he was hurt or anything, unless they carted him off or something. But this time he went all the way to the end of the bench, where literally the line where we can go to is like 4 feet away. And I thought, well, if he doesn't go back in, this could be a big deal. So I just started ignoring the game and I went over there and kneeled down and I had a wide angle lens or maybe a 50. And I just sat there like this, just sat there and sat there and sat there. And he looked over at me. He just dropped his head and let's see here. And he said, hello.
Oh,
So I said, click. And I was like, oh my God, I hope this is in focus. Just please be in focus. It looks, I just shot it with my iPhone through the frame this morning when I was coming over here. So that's why quality doesn't look too good. But, so that one actually sits in a place of honor in my basement, right next to the pool table.
and I'm sure that got published.
That has never been published. What I did do though is, so my dad has one in his house, my father-in-law has one, and then a reporter just so happens that later that week was going to be going to Green Bay to interview him, like a one-on-one. I said, so I had an 8x10 made or 11x14 or something. And I said, well, get your interview, but give him one of these afterwards. I was just curious how he would react. And so he did. And now this is according to the reporter, but he said that he got a kick out of it because he has a good sense of humor, and he actually stuck it in his locker. And according to the guy who gave it to him, said that they had to take it down because they do interviews by locker and that, and you can't exactly have a picture like that hanging up there. So I don't know if that part for sure is true, but that's what I was told. And so that's kind of cool. It's a fun little story.
Hey, Dan, was it a Minnesota game when we were following him off and Favre he elbowed your camera into your face?
Yeah, I have that here, actually. I'll show that to you.
All the good stories at the end, right?
Steve, you're nailing me on everything here. Yeah.
All right, can't make this easy.
No,
How are you
that's-
enjoying retirement, Steve?
I'm still working. I'm freelancing and stuff, so it's not
Oh,
really
good.
retirement. So
I didn't know you did that. That's great.
oh, I'm teaching too at Madison College, 2 photojournalism classes. So
So did you take over Craig? It sounded like Craig.
yeah, so I'm doing
Oh, great,
both
cool.
classes.
Good for you. That's
Yeah,
great.
maybe I'll take one.
Yeah,
I
maybe
might
I'll,
need one.
You
I
guys
might
wanna-
need one too.
Join?
I'll commute.
Norm, you
Yeah.
want to go?
I'll drive up from Chicago for one of them.
Okay, so Steve's talking about, this is so long ago, I'm actually using Nikon. So this had to be around 2000. And we were in Minnesota and the Packers ended up losing to the Vikings. But the interesting part is that Brett Favre left the field before the end of the game. And I'm talking, mate, what was it, like 30 seconds, Steve, something like that?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Not, yeah, but he had it and he just decided to leave. And I noticed that. And so I try to position myself. My goal is to get a picture of him leaving the field before it's over, just a wide angle shot, basically. And there's an exit where the players go out. And I thought, I was either to the left or to the right. And evidently I was like right in the middle. And so he ventured his way off field. And these pictures are either shot, the ones of me are either shot by Steve or Tom Lynn, or maybe both. I'm not, maybe it was,
Yeah, I can't remember. I just
Yeah.
remember getting bashed.
yes. So, so can you guys see that?
Yeah.
All right. So he's getting ready to leave, or he's leaving. And he's getting close, and you can see the people above him pointing like something bad's going to happen, evidently. The lady in the purple there, and then he's getting closer and closer, and you can see the exit. I didn't quite get all the way in time. And then I get hit. And then right about there, I'm starting to realize that my face hurts. And it's starting to kick in, and he's out of there. And then this is my view, and you can see he's not exactly too happy here. And
He's got his eyes on you, you can tell.
yeah, and Tom Lynn, he's to the left. You can see the red fanny pack. I wonder if that's that old Canon, maybe not.
He could have gone around you too. It sounded like he
Right.
was Rome.
Right. And I did kind of try to move, but so here's the photo that I was hoping to get, which I got. And then it's getting a little too close. And then I'm like, and then bam.
Bam.
And then Steve or somebody picked it up.
Souvenir.
You look like Tom Brady.
Yeah. So the Packers, one of the doctors or medical guys over there came over because he said it was close to getting in the red part of my lip because we better, he didn't put a stitch in, put one of those little butterfly things on to hold it together. And then it swelled up later at that night, but that was my, maybe he remembered that picture I took of him that I showed you before.
Well, that's great, Dan. Thank you very much for sharing all that. That's a great career that you've had, and it looks like we're going to get a couple more years out of you at least, huh?
I hope so. I don't plan on hanging it up anytime soon. I turn 56 next week, and still loving it. So,
well, Steve was saying he needs an assistant, so maybe you can come down and teach with him.
yeah, there you go. Do that a couple days a week.
When did Joe leave the paper, Dan?
I want to say, let's see, it's 2017 or it's been a few years, 3 years maybe.
Wow, I didn't know that. He didn't. I'll have to reach out to him.
Yeah, unfortunately, just like anything, there's just, we're sizing down and that sort of a thing. And,
Sure.
Well, we're just going to wrap up the recording real quick, and then we'll let everybody chit chat if you'd like. So Norm, if you can go ahead and pause that. Thanks for joining us.